Hey guys, Braden Mauer here. If you're a high performing Christian who does not want to be a statistic this year and gain 5 to 8 pounds, and you simply struggle to maintain your weight during the holidays, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can approach the holiday season without feeling so restricted and without gaining an unnecessary amount of body fat. So please stick around until the end.
All right, so if we look at the data, it's kind of wishy-washy. It's not exact, but the reality is like most Americans gain weight this time of year. And it's no surprise why. If you think about holiday environments, there's a lot of food, there's a lot of beverages, and culture nowadays, I've mentioned this in a lot of my content. It tends to tie food into a lot of events, and especially the holidays. Like I think about a couple Christmases ago when we had my in-laws over, they brought a ton of finger foods for us to graze on all day. And I'll tell you what, I was very miserable because I came into it with the wrong mindset. And I'm sure most of you watching this can relate. Like it's very tempting this time of year simply because of the environments that we place ourselves in. We've got Christmas parties, we've got parades, we've got all kinds of gatherings, we've got festive foods like at Christmas, Christmas Eve, all this stuff. It's a lot, right? And we don't want to be like most people. And I can also tell you, and I'll talk about this towards the end, is it's not necessarily like these 1 to 3 days that we're experiencing. It's also what we're doing outside of that. And unfortunately, many people carry these patterns leading up until the new year. And a lot of people right now are saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait until 2025. Those are the same people who are always waiting, and they're always the same people who are stopping and starting. So we want to address that and reframe the mindset here. So here's how we approach the holiday season and what we can do before we approach any of these events. Remember, first and foremost, you have to tell yourself that you are there for the experience, not the food. You are at this Christmas parade to spend quality time with your family, with your kids, with your friends. You're at this, you're at Christmas Eve because again, you're thankful that you're thankful for Christ's birth. Like there's a good reason, right? Of course. Come on now. And remember that the food just happens to be there. I'm not saying that you can't have a Christmas cookie and milk. I'm not implying that at all. But we shouldn't like hyper focus way too much on this food because again, it just happens to be there. And I would ask yourself, would you still enjoy a Christmas parade, a Christmas gathering, a Christmas party, Christmas Eve with your family, Christmas morning, Christmas dinner? Would you still enjoy these things without food? Would you still enjoy that? And if not, then yeah, we have some serious work to do right there because it is not about the food. It is just a byproduct there. But at the same time, like we don't want to feel so restricted. You can also say no. I mean, if you really don't want to indulge in a cookie here or there, like I'm not going to trip. Like I'm not going to freak out and say and guilt trip you for not having that or like, hey, you're being extreme. There's nothing wrong with that. I personally I've gotten to the point where I can now have a couple cookies and just move on. But prior to that, I would have one and it would trigger me to consume a lot more. So instead of me saying, hey, I can't have that, try this right here. Say, you know what? I'm good. That's how you say no. Write that down if you're listening and you've had trouble with that. I promise you that'll change everything because inherently we are very rebellious. And when we say we can't have all the finger foods, we can't have all these desserts. It makes you want a little bit more. But if you really don't want to have it and you want to put that hard boundary there, you simply say, no, I'm good. Planning ahead will also help you navigate through these events and simply being mentally prepared to do so. Now, I would simply look at your calendar, and if you're not doing this in your personal life anyways, like if you are not owning your calendar and you're not planning out your days accordingly based off of your big vision, based off of your most critical tasks, your high leverage tasks that move the needle forward in your health, in your wealth, in your business, career, in your relationships, and you need to be doing that because you also need to be doing that with this. Ask yourself what events will you be attending? What do the environments look like? What kind of food is going to be there? You need to know these things before you attend these events. Calorie banking. Now, this is thrown around quite a bit in the fitness industry. This is essentially where you borrow calories so that you can enjoy yourself at an event. Now, I'm not completely opposed to that, but oftentimes we see it go a little too far where people starve themselves leading up to say a Christmas dinner party and they just completely go off the rails because hey, I only ate 400 calories leading up to this event. I can splurge and eat like 4,000 right here. That's not what we want to do. But if you are going to do that, I highly recommend that you consume a lot of protein and fiber and stay hydrated leading up until this event and try to get a rough gauge of how many calories that you're consuming there, but don't let it go too far. Make a plate, and move on. You can also have a dessert, but after that, don't let it go too far. Simple as that. Just like my Thanksgiving recommendations, pile your plate high full of protein because you're not going to want to eat much after that. Now, here's an analogy that I really like, and we're going to say his name is Little Jimmy. So let's just say Little Jimmy in two banks. You got Little Jimmy over here for financial literacy, and you've got Little Jimmy over here for improving his mindset with food. So on one side, he's financially literate. He knows that he needs to stick to the budget. And it's not a math problem, it's a behavior problem. Now, in regards to planning, it's the same thing. We want to minimize impulsive spending and making decisions like that on the spot. It's the same concept over here with food. If we have a plan and we know that we're attending a Christmas dinner party, then we're going to come into it with the right mindset, knowing like, hey, you know what? I need to make sure that my behaviors are in alignment with my goals right now. Because at the end of the day, with weight loss and weight gain, yes, it's a numbers game. It's calories in versus calories out, right? However, it's a lot easier said than done. It is a behavioral issue. Same thing with financial literacy. We know to stick to a budget, but at the end of the day, we make these rash decisions and impulsive spending. All of that is behavioral. One of the best things that we can do is plan and start to visualize ourselves in these events, visualize ourselves being balanced, not being so restricted, but at the same time, just not completely going off of the rails. I'm actually not a fan of fat loss around this time of year. Yes, through some of the days and weeks of December, I think it is appropriate. As of now, today is December 11th, and I do have many clients right now in a fat loss phase. However, this is a very difficult time to lose weight as we get closer to some of these Christmas parades and Christmas events, and we start to have family come over. And we don't want to have that crazy pressure to lose weight. Well, one, we don't necessarily need to be losing weight all the time. I always say in my unique mechanism of the eternal fat loss method that everybody does this, but nobody takes the time to do that. And I think that this is a great opportunity to maintain weight loss and focus on not necessarily losing weight, but just maintaining good patterns, but also having a little bit of balance. And what a great opportunity to do so. And I think if you do come into there are some people who lose weight during Christmas. I'm not denying that at all. If you want to do that, hey, more power to you. But I'm not going to be so focused on that during this time because I've got other obligations in my life that need my attention, that need my intense focus, which is my family, loved ones, etc. And as far as like weight loss goes, could I be doing it? Absolutely. But at the same time, like I don't want to have that pressure. And if I were to fall off a little bit and, have a couple more cookies than I needed to, then I would feel like a complete failure. Right. So just from a psychological standpoint, I do believe for most people, again, I'm not trying to overgeneralize. It's wise to take a diet break, which is where you simply bring your calories up to around maintenance or even a small surplus. And your intention is not to lose weight anymore. You might actually gain a little bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But regardless, like we want to implement more of like a maintenance phase with the whole weight loss thing. And a diet break typically lasts anywhere from 3 to 14 days, sometimes a lot longer. It really just depends on the case. Again, that's an overgeneralized statement, but I would suggest doing this just to relieve that pressure. All right, I'm going to keep this one pretty brief. Like, what do we do after? We simply get back on track. It's that simple. There's no magic to that. And remember, it's not what happens in 1 to 5 days. It's the other calendar days of the year that matter, right? Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, like those are 4 calendar days, right? But oftentimes people let it go a little too far the days before, the days after. That's something else I would suggest is if there is like some kind of high calorie dense food from Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever the occasion is, don't bring it in the house unless it's like high protein, if it's like a stuffing or cookies or cake or whatever it might be, something very calorie dense. Like, do not set yourself up for failure. Say no when somebody says, do you want to take this home? Like, absolutely not. Do not do that because, again, like that will carry on to the other calendar days of the year. And that is why many people become a statistic this time of year, is because they let 1 to 5 days become several days, several weeks. And then we're waiting until 2025. And then we get in this vicious cycle of all or nothing to where we're constantly starting and stopping. No, just simply get back on track.
Hope you guys found some value in this video. Hope you have a Merry Christmas. Remember the reason for the season, and that is to celebrate our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now, if you are a high-performing Christian and you're struggling to find a groove with losing body fat and actually keeping it off for good, book in a call with me. We'll find out where you're at currently and ultimately talk about what we can do to get you to where you want to go. Thanks again for watching this video. Stay healthy and God bless.